When my granddaughter told me to sign over my retirement account, saying I was too old, right in front of her husband, I just listened, left without a word, and contacted the pension board. Within weeks, every withdrawal she attempted bounced. A true story from Spokane, Washington. Betrayal had to be punished. Justice had to be restored. You won't believe what I did next. My name is Thomas. I'm 75 years old, a retired government bank officer who spent his life helping people manage their money. I never thought I'd have to teach my own family what value really means. This is my story, a true story of family betrayal and noble revenge. It happened on a bright Friday in December, the kind of light that flatters everything except the truth. My granddaughter, Hannah, clever, ambitious, and too quick to smile when she wants something, had invited me to lunch downtown. Her husband, Ethan, polite but opportunistic, a man who sells financial packages for a private firm, joined us. He's the kind of salesman who convinces people to buy fear in monthly installments. We met at a cafe filled with chrome, chatter, and confidence. I wore my best wool coat. Hannah wore entitlement, dressed as concern. "Grandpa," she began, smiling too easily, "you've been managing that retirement account for years. Don't you think it's time someone else handled it?" I stirred my coffee slowly. "You think I can't read numbers anymore?" She laughed lightly, the kind of laugh people use when they want to sound gentle while sharpening a blade. "It's not that, Grandpa. It's just, you've worked hard your whole life. You deserve rest." Ethan leaned forward, nodding as if sealing a deal. "It's just practical, sir. Financial systems are complex now. A few forms could simplify things." "Forms?" I asked. He smiled. "Power of attorney, authorization transfer, just signatures, routine." The phrase power of attorney sat between us like a loaded gun. I folded my napkin carefully. One slow motion, a small act of control. "You want me to sign over my retirement?" "Not sign over," Hannah said quickly, eyes glinting with nervous brightness. "Just streamline things. We'd handle everything for you. Less stress for you, more security for everyone." I looked at her, the girl who used to count pennies with me on the kitchen floor, giggling when she found one from before she was born. That little girl had learned to value stories, not sense. The woman across from me now valued control. But I didn't argue. I'd learned that silence unsettles the guilty more than scolding ever could. I smiled politely and said, "You might be right, Hannah. Maybe I am too old." She smiled in victory, the kind that doesn't realize what it's really lost. "Wonderful," she said. "We'll stop by Saturday with the forms." Ethan grinned. "You won't regret it, sir." I nodded once. "I rarely do." I let the bill sit between us like a verdict no one wanted to read. Outside, December kept its own books. Mine were about to open. As I stood to leave, the cafe window caught our reflections. 3 figures in the same pane, not the same truth. I remembered a different kitchen table. Copper pennies spread like constellations. Hannah small enough to balance on a chair, counting in whispers while Margaret brewed cocoa. Every coin tells a story, I'd told her then, but the honest ones line up. The memory clicked against the present like a lock meeting its key. Outside, a city bus sighed to a stop. A door folded open. People shuffled forward believing schedules kept them safe. I knew better. Schedules just tell you when the next temptation arrives. As I lifted my coffee cup, the surface rippled with the faint shape of Hannah's smirk. I spent my life protecting other people's money. I never thought I'd have to protect mine from my own blood. By dusk, the city felt audited, lights bright as if nothing could hide. That evening, I walked home through Spokane's Christmas strands, reds, blues, golds, shimmering like promises made on borrowed money. The air was crisp, clean, and uncomfortably honest. Inside my apartment, silence waited like an old friend. I hung my coat and looked toward the framed photo of Margaret, my late wife, patient and wise, holding a baby Hannah, both smiling as if life had no math to balance yet. I whispered, "You wouldn't believe what your granddaughter said to me today?" Her eyes in the photo didn't answer, but her expression did. I could almost hear her voice, the same one that always met chaos with calm. "You taught her to count. Now teach her what numbers mean." I brewed tea, no sugar, never sugar, and opened my old financial binder. Every page told a story of discipline, pension ledgers, deposit slips, handwritten notes in ink faded but exact. My pension wasn't a handout. It was a contract between decades of service and one man's endurance. No one was signing that contract but me. I turned on the desk lamp and wrote 3 words on a yellow pad. Contact Pension Board. The night slid in like a ledger margin. Narrow, precise. I didn't chase sleep. I sharpened pencils, labeled folders, and stacked documents in a neat procession. Pension terms, authentication keys, prior disbursements. On a blank card I wrote, Table rules. I speak once. They listened twice. No signatures without comprehension. I rehearsed answers to the arguments I knew were coming. It's complicated now. We're helping. It's just a form. I set out 3 teacups and turned one upside down. For temptation, I thought. Then I locked the file drawer and breathed until my heartbeat matched the wall clock. Far off, church bells folded the city into silence. Reverence was already here, a quiet vow to protect what years had built. Saturday came dressed in cold clouds and faint regret. The bell rang at 10:15. Through the glass, I saw Hannah's winter smile and Ethan's salesman grin. "Morning, Grandpa," she said, cheerful as sunlight bouncing off ice. Ethan lifted the manila envelope like a peace treaty. We brought everything ready to sign. I opened the door just wide enough. "Come in." They spread the documents across my kitchen table, transfer of authorization, power of attorney, beneficiary adjustment, all highlighted neatly in neon pink, like confetti at a quiet betrayal. "Just a few signatures," Ethan said. I poured coffee while they arranged their plans. "Cream?" I asked. "None for me," Ethan said. "Same," said Hannah. "Let's just go over these quickly." I handed them both their cups. "You'll need something to wash down the aftertaste," she frowned. "Aftertaste?" I sat across from them. "Betrayal," I said. "It always leaves one." The word betrayal hung in the air. Hannah's spoon stopped mid-stir. Ethan's eyes flicked toward the door, calculating an exit. "These forms are standard," Ethan stammered. "Every client does this." "I'm not a client," I said. "I'm the account holder." They didn't know how to answer that, so I gave them an exit. "I'll review them," I said quietly. "Come back in a few days." "Grandpa," Hannah began, impatience coating her voice. "There's really no need." "Come back in a few days," I repeated, slower. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, then closed it when he met my eyes. "Fine," Hannah said at last, gathering the papers. "But don't make this harder than it needs to be." I smiled faintly. "Don't worry, dear. Hard is my specialty. If you're listening now, stay with me. This isn't just my story. If it speaks to you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so someone else can hear it. Tell me where you're listening, over morning coffee or late at night. Now, this is where my plan begins. After they left, I waited until the stairwell went silent. Then, I sat at the table and opened the folder they'd left behind. Still, warm from their hands, I read every line. 2 signature blocks were already pre-filled. One even had my name typed above the line, forgery. In font form, I took out a new notebook from my desk, a black one, still sealed. I unwrapped it carefully, like opening a new account. On the first page, I wrote, "Ledger of Memory. Every wrong starts with a number. Every lesson ends with a balance." Below it, I drew a small square, my version of a checkmark box, and wrote, "Step 1. Record the truth before it forgets itself." I closed the notebook slowly and glanced toward the window. Outside, snow began to fall. I whispered to the empty room, "They think they're clever. But arithmetic always exposes liars." The clock ticked, each second sharper than the last. Monday morning arrived gray and brittle. By 8, I was at the pension security office. The pension officer, Delaney, brisk, alert, allergic to nonsense, looked up from her monitor. "Good morning," she said. "Name?" "Thomas," I replied, handing my ID. "I need to report an unauthorized access attempt on my account." Her fingers clicked across the keyboard like a courtroom stenographer taking down justice. "Do you have documentation?" she asked. "Yes," I said, laying down the printed forms. She scanned them. "This signature isn't yours." "No," I said. "It belongs to someone who thinks I've gone soft." Delaney looked up, assessing me carefully. "You seem perfectly lucid to me." "I am," I said. "That's the problem for them. Her lips twitched into a knowing smile. "Let's secure this before they try again," she typed rapidly. "All requests now require your direct signature and double verification. No changes allowed." "Add one more note," I said. "All requests must be referred directly to the grantor." She nodded. "Done." Then she leaned back slightly and said softly, "You caught this in time." I smiled. I spent 40 years catching other people in time. That evening, the world outside was blue with snow. Inside, the room had purpose now. Not silence, but intent. I brewed tea and opened the ledger of memory. On a clean page, I wrote one line: "When the young forget who built the table, remind them who owns the wood." I checked the small box beside it, one mark for the first step. I looked toward Margaret's photo, the lamplight soft across the glass. Then I reached for the phone. The dial tone held steady, like a heart refusing to panic. "Pension board," a woman's voice answered. "This is Thomas," I said. "I'm ready to lock it down." Morning arrived like a clean ledger page, cold, blank, waiting to be filled. I brewed my tea, the kettle whistling like an impatient creditor. Then I opened the ledger of memory and wrote a new line beneath the first, step 2. Document deceit before it disguises itself as help. The sunlight outside was thin, a weak apology for warmth. I sat at my table, the same one Hannah had used to spread her betrayal, and laid out every paper she had left behind: 2 signatures, 3 errors, and 1 misplaced assumption. That old men don't notice fine print. I smiled. Not bitterly, but with precision. I dialed Delaney, the pension officer who had helped me lock down the account. Delaney speaking. "Good morning," I said. "This is Thomas." Her tone brightened. "Thomas, I was hoping you'd call. I'd like to confirm the security hold still stands." "It does," she said. "Your account's sealed tighter than a vault. No withdrawals, no transfers." "Good," I said. "Let's keep it that way. And please, flag any future attempts." "Under what name?" she asked. I paused, then replied, "Label it Family Initiative." A small chuckle escaped her. "That's clever." "Not for them," I said, and hung up. When the line clicked silent, I checked the time, 9:07 a.m. Then I turned to a fresh page and wrote, "Slowly, silence is the oldest tool of the wise. Use it often. Use it well." Outside, the snow began again, thick and slow, covering the footprints of betrayal. By mid-afternoon, the doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I saw Ethan, hair perfectly parted, confidence rehearsed. When I opened the door, he gave me that smile men wear when they're about to sell something they don't own. "Morning, Thomas," he said. "Mind if we talk?" "About what?" He held up a branded folder from his firm. "Just following up on the forms. There's still time to process before year-end. Best to wrap things up before the new tax cycle." I opened the door fully. "Come in." He stepped inside, scanning the apartment as if appraising inventory. "Nice place," he murmured. "Quiet." "Quiet," I said evenly, "is where people hear themselves lie." That landed like a coin dropped in a vault. He blinked, unsure whether to laugh or apologize. "Sit," I said. He obeyed. I poured him tea and set the cup before him. He stared at it, untouched. "I appreciate you looking out for Hannah," I said. "You're a good husband." "Thank you," he replied. "Cautious now. You'll need to be an even better man," I continued, "because if you try this again, you'll spend your good years explaining it to auditors who don't have my patience." He froze, color draining from his face. I don't follow." "Yes, you do." I reached into my folder and placed a photocopy of the forged authorization form on the table. His handwriting sat in the margins like fingerprints. Ethan stared at it, then swallowed hard. I lifted my hand. "Don't insult yourself with denial." He glanced toward the door. "Look," Hannah panicked, "we were both trying to secure things. In case I die," I said quietly. He looked down. "You see, Ethan," I continued, "I spent 40 years helping people manage their wealth, but I also studied what greed sounds like. It always starts with, 'We were just trying.'" He didn't answer. I took my pen, opened the ledger of memory, and drew a straight vertical mark. He watched. "What's that for?" "An audit line," I said. "One for every person who needs a lesson." He left 15 minutes later. The tea was untouched. The silence after the door closed felt rich, like interest earned on dignity. The next morning, as the kettle began to whistle, the phone rang. "Thomas," said Delaney, her voice crisp but urgent. "We've received 2 additional authorization requests." I didn't need to ask from whom. "Hannah?" "Same household," she confirmed. But this time she used a different email and listed herself as your financial proxy. I chuckled softly. "She's persistent. I'll give her that." Delaney hesitated. "Would you like me to block the address completely?" "No," I said. "Let her think she's clever. Every lie deserves its own rope." She exhaled with a laugh. "You're remarkably calm about this." "Calm," I said, "is a form of arithmetic. When people lose their temper, they stop counting correctly. Remind me never to play chess with you, Thomas." "Wise choice," I said. "I don't play to win. I play to teach." When I hung up, I opened the ledger and wrote, "Step 3. Watch the wolf build its own trail. It will lead straight to the snare." Then I underlined the snare twice, once for each of them. That afternoon, my neighbor Nora, sharp-eyed, loyal, allergic to injustice, knocked on my door. "Thomas," she said, waving a photo, "you'll want to see this." It was from last summer's neighborhood barbecue. In the corner of the image, almost hidden, Hannah was handing Ethan a stack of papers near my garden fence. Nora pointed to the reflection in my kitchen window. "Look close. See that?" I leaned in. Through the faint glass, I could make out the words, "Transfer of benefits." "You've got better eyes than a banker," I told her. She smiled. "I was married to one for 30 years. I took the photo gently and slipped it into a plastic sleeve. "Thank you, Nora. Anytime. People like that shouldn't get away with it." After she left, I clipped the photo inside the ledger. Next to it, I wrote, "Proof doesn't need to be shouted. It just needs to stay in focus." I stared at the picture a long time. Hannah's face mid-laugh, Ethan's eyes fixed on her, the forms like a secret between thieves. But secrets don't stay secret when you write them down. The following morning, whispers had replaced greetings. At the corner store, 2 men near the newspaper rack lowered their voices as I entered. "That's the old banker," one muttered. "He froze his granddaughter's money." The other snorted. "He's lost it. Happens to all of them." I smiled politely and bought my bread. Gossip spreads faster than truth, and always travels cheaper. When I returned home, I sat again at my ledger table, the same place betrayal had been served like breakfast. I opened a new page and drew 2 columns, noise and truth. Under noise, I wrote, "He's bitter. He's cruel. He's losing it." Under truth, I wrote, "He's awake. He's prepared. He's free." Then I drew a small check mark beside free. The world could whisper all it wanted. I wasn't defending myself. I was balancing the books. My phone buzzed with a new message notification. The sender's name appeared, Hannah. Her text glowed like an accusation. "Grandpa, why are you doing this? We were trying to protect you. Everyone thinks you've lost your mind." I read it twice, then again. For a long time I didn't type anything. I just stared at her words. Protect you. That word, protect, had built wars and justified betrayal since the beginning of time. Finally, I typed my reply, "I'm protecting what you forgot how to respect." I didn't send it. Not yet. Instead, I closed my phone and opened the ledger. On the next clean page, I wrote with deliberate care, Step 4. The young will call wisdom cruelty. Let them. Age has sharper tools. I set the pen down and looked toward the framed photo of Margaret, her eyes calm and knowing as ever. "You were right," I whispered. They forgot the lesson, but they'll remember the teacher. Outside, Spokane was wrapped in cold silence. Inside, the clock ticked like a heartbeat counting down to reckoning. I closed the ledger gently and said one word out loud. Balance. The phone rang almost on cue. I answered. "Pension office," Delaney said. "Then let's begin the audit," I replied. Let me pause for a moment. If you've stayed with me this far, you feel this betrayal as I do. Would you forgive or fight back? Tell me in the comments. And while you're here, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who believes family should be unbreakable. What comes next will change everything. 2 days passed. Snow thickened across Spokane like memory. Soft, white, unwilling to melt. I sat at the ledger table beneath the lamp's gold halo, rereading every note. Every line was clean. Every number was true. In 40 years at the bank, I learned one absolute law. Paper may bend, but arithmetic doesn't lie. The doorbell rang. It was my son Mark, Hannah's father. His eyes carried the storm she'd caused. "Dad," he said, pulling off his gloves, "we need to talk." I gestured to the chair. "Then sit. Talking is free." "Excuses cost extra." He sat, jaw tight. "Hannah's a wreck. She says you embarrassed her at the pension office." "I never said her name," I replied. "She embarrassed herself." "You're making this worse than it needs to be." "No, Mark, I'm making it right." He leaned in. You froze your own granddaughter's access." I secured my account. "There's a difference. She's welcome to earn back my trust, without a pen in her hand." Mark stared at the table. "She says it was Ethan's idea." "Maybe," I said. "But she signed the spirit of it." He rubbed his face. "You've always kept everything so controlled. Couldn't you just let this go?" I smiled faintly. "I've let a lot go in my life, Mark, not dignity." "That stays." His shoulders fell. After a long silence, he stood. "I'll talk to her again." When the door closed, I opened the ledger and wrote, Step 5. Even the silent heirs must hear the lesson. If they defend the wrong, they share its debt. Something in me shifted, not anger anymore. Something colder, cleaner. Justice was finding its shape. That afternoon, an email arrived from Delaney. Subject line, Status Update, Family Initiative. Following your report, our office initiated a compliance audit to confirm recent activity. A temporary freeze has been applied to all external authorization requests pending verification. Thank you for your vigilance. You have protected your rights and your pension. Delaney, Pension Security Officer. I printed the note and slid it into the ledger. Beneath it, I wrote in bold strokes, "The paper that saves you rarely looks heroic. It just refuses to lie." As I capped my pen, the phone rang. "Thomas," Delaney said, voice brisk, "you should know. We just flagged a third attempt. New email, same household device. We declined it and logged the incident." "Good," I said. "Let the record fatten." "There's something else," she added. "Your name's been mentioned in a preliminary inquiry, guardianship suitability. Not a filing, but the kind of question that sometimes precedes one." I let the words sit on the line like frost. "By whom?" "Caller withheld. But the timing is suggestive." "Thank you, Delaney." "Keep the audit tight." After we hung up, I wrote, Step 6, lock the gates quietly. Let the thieves discover the locks themselves. I stared at the page until the ink dried, thinking how quickly concern turns into custody when money sits behind the door. On Wednesday, 3 rapid knocks. Then hesitation. Hannah. Her lipstick was uneven. The mask had slipped.
"Grandpa, please, we need to talk." I stepped aside.
Then talk. She clutched her phone like a flotation device. I tried to move money from our joint savings. It bounced. Ethan's furious. "We're behind on the mortgage." "Ah," I said. "Liquidity tastes sweet until you learn who owns the well." She flinched. "I didn't mean for this to spiral. Hey, sit!" She sat, eyes drawn to the open ledger. "What is that?" "History," I said. "One I'm still writing." "You're ruining us." "No," I answered, calm as arithmetic. "You did that when you decided my years were negotiable." Tears came, not theatrical, but hot. I let them fall. "You see this notebook?" I said softly. "Every word is true, and every truth has weight. You will feel every ounce of it." "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "Not money. Comprehension. You'll earn back your integrity the way I earned this pension. Line by line." She looked toward the window. "I thought I was helping." "People always do," I said. "Until the mirror talks back." She stood, then hesitated. "Ethan says if you keep acting confused, we might have to prove you're unfit to handle your finances." "Just for your safety." I met her eyes steady. "Tell Ethan that confusion doesn't file compliance letters. Greed does." She swallowed hard and left without another word. I drew a diagonal line across the audit marks and wrote, Step 7. The heart learns from silence faster than from shouting. I closed the ledger and exhaled. In the distance, a plow scraped the street. The city cleaning what people leave behind. That evening, Nora knocked, coat half-buttoned, breath quick. "Thomas, I overheard something at the co-op. Ethan's telling folks you're slipping." He hinted at a guardianship talk. I smiled. "Let them measure my mind with their own rulers. They'll come up short. You're not angry?" "I've seen slander before," I said. It's the tax of the righteous. She shook her head, a soft laugh. You always have a proverb ready. 40 years in banking, I said. Half the job was counseling panic. Do you want me to say something? No, I want results to speak. She squeezed my arm. Then I'll listen to them. After she left, I added to the ledger. Step 8. When they attack your reason, answer with results. Wisdom doesn't argue, it audits. I clipped Delaney's printout to the page. Under the lamplight, the paper gleamed like a quiet badge. Some men fight wars with swords. I preferred stationery. My phone lit with a voicemail transcription from an unknown number. Hello, calling regarding a wellness and financial capacity inquiry for Thomas. I saved it carefully. On Thursday morning, I called my former colleague Grayson, who now edited the Retiree Council newsletter. Grayson, I said, how's your health? Still counting pills and blessings? He chuckled. What do you need, Thomas? I'd like to submit a piece for next month's bulletin on financial awareness when familiar hands get too familiar. Send it. You always write plainly enough to be heard. That afternoon I drafted a single page. When familiar hands reach for unfamiliar pockets. No names, no accusations, just the principle. A man's legacy isn't measured by what he leaves, but by who learns not to steal it. I signed it. T.R. Spokane. When I sealed the envelope, I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Truth travels fastest when it wears plain clothes. Then I wrote, Step 9. Sometimes you don't have to expose a thief. You just have to let their reflection travel. As I set down the pen, a message flashed from Delaney. FYI. Anonymous inquiry escalated to a formal information request with us. We responded, account secured. No concerns, capacity. Paper trail favors you, I whispered. Thank you. To the empty room, and to the paper that refused to lie. By Friday, the air around me had changed. Neighbors nodded with quiet respect. The cashier at the corner store called me sir again. The rumor had met the audit, and the audit didn't blink. That evening Mark called. His voice was different, humbled. Dad, I talked to Hannah. She's changed this week.
Says she's sorry.
Really sorry? I know, I said. The world audited her heart. Silence then. What does that mean? It means the math no longer adds up to the story she was telling. A knock at my door interrupted us. Hold on, I said, and opened it. Mark stood there in the hall, phone still to his ear. He lowered it, stepped inside, and closed the door behind him. We can end this, he said, but not by humiliating her. Please, I heard about the newsletter piece. It doesn't name her. Everyone will know, he whispered. Spokane is a small city with fast ears. He looked at the ledger on the table, then at me. I need to ask you something hard. Will you consider a private reckoning instead of a public one? I said nothing. Mark continued, voice low. No courts, no counsel whispers. Hannah faces you. You set terms. She makes amends. I'll enforce it. We call it whatever you want. A contract, a pact, just not a spectacle. I rested my hand on the ledger. The room was very still. On my phone, a friend forwarded a screenshot of Ethan bragging in a group chat last week. He won't see it coming. Old men just sign. The timestamp was damning. I slid the phone to Mark. He read it, face crumpling. He'll answer for this, he said. But please, don't scorch Hannah in the square. I opened the ledger to a clean page and wrote, Step 10. The guilty will seek redemption when the math of their deeds no longer adds up. Then, beneath it, balance review. Proposed. Mark watched my pen.
Does that mean yes?
I looked from the page to the door. The world outside waiting for either justice's trumpet or a quieter bell. Two paths lay on the table like parallel lines. Public exposure. I deliver the article. Share the audit, and let the town read the arithmetic aloud. Private reckoning. I summon them to the ledger table, and write terms they must live. Not sign. I capped my pen. The clock ticked once, loud as a gavel. Tomorrow, I said. I'll call them. Mark swallowed. Which way? I lifted the receiver, dialed, and let it ring. Once, twice. A voice answered. I drew a breath. When the call ended, I knew what the next dawn would demand. Saturday. Morning arrived with the kind of stillness only winter can hold. I opened the curtains and let the pale sun fall. Across the ledger table. The same table where, Hannah once slid deceit over its wood, and where I had since written every truth worth remembering. The light cut across the room like an audit, exposing everything, forgiving nothing. Outside, Spokane slept beneath its quilt of snow. Inside, I was awake and exact. It was December 22nd, 3 days until Christmas. The streets outside shimmered with faint holiday lights, colors flickering against frost. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rehearsed for Christmas Eve. The city was dressing itself in forgiveness. I intended to do the same. I polished the table until it gleamed, a table reborn. This time, it would hold truth, not temptation. At the center, I placed 3 objects: the ledger of memory, its pages filled and edges worn; the letter from Delaney, proof my pension had survived their greed; a clean envelope labeled Balance Review. No plates. No forks, only paper, patience, and a pen. I brewed fresh tea, the scent of bergamot filling the room, and sat down to wait. Every second ticked like an old clock reconciling its hours. Time itself held its breath. By 6:10 the doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I saw Hannah, Ethan, and Mark, bundled in coats, faces drawn by guilt and sleepless nights, silhouettes wavering like ghosts returning for penance. "Come in," I said. They stepped inside. The warmth of my home met the coldness of their remorse. Ethan's eyes went straight to the table and stiffened. Hannah's gaze froze on the envelope. Mark stood behind them, silent, torn between his bloodline and his conscience. "Sit," I said. "We're closing the account tonight." The scrape of chairs on wood echoed like an opening gavel. They sat in silence. The only sound was the clock, each tick. An unpaid debt, and the faint scent of pine from the small tree in the corner. A few ornaments gleamed softly beneath its lights, gifts from years when laughter came easier. I opened the ledger of memory, its spine groaning like an old witness, and read, not as accusation, but as record. December 12th. Attempted power of attorney transfer. December 15th. Forged authorization form submitted. December 18th. Unauthorized access attempt from household. IPE December 20th. Second fraudulent submission. I looked up. "Do any of you dispute these entries?" No one spoke. Hannah's lip trembled. Ethan's hands locked together like a defendant waiting on a verdict. Mark exhaled, the sound of reluctant understanding. I turned the page. December 22nd. Account secured. Pension board notified. Audit complete. I closed the notebook gently. "This," I said, resting my palm on the cover, "isn't revenge. It's reconciliation through arithmetic. Every lie has a balance. Every truth has an interest." I met Hannah's eyes. "You owe both." Her tears came, quiet, unperformed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't even know why I did it anymore." "Yes, you do," I said softly. "You believed age meant ignorance. You forgot that wisdom doesn't fade. It compounds." She bowed her head. Ethan reached for her hand. She didn't take it. Mark looked at me lost. "Dad, what happens now?" I slid the envelope across the table. "Open it, Hannah. Read the balance review." She unfolded the letter with shaking hands and read, "Balance review. Family restoration agreement, Hannah." And Ethan will submit a written apology acknowledging the breach of trust. They will attend 3 financial ethics workshops at the community college. They will repay $200 in legal costs from the compliance inquiry to the Retiree Relief Fund. They will visit on the first Sunday of every month for 1 year, not to discuss money, only to share a meal. Upon completion, all records will be sealed in this ledger under the word forgiven. Her voice cracked on the last word. The room went still, a silence so deep it almost prayed. Hannah's tears dotted the page like punctuation in a story rewritten. Ethan bowed his head. Mark's eyes shone. "Dad, this is mercy." "Mercy must be earned through effort," I said. "But it must also be offered by the one who was wronged." I stood slowly. "I've spent my life balancing other people's ledgers. Tonight, I balance my own." The fire in the corner popped once, a period after a long sentence. Hannah reached across the table and took my hand. "Grandpa," she whispered, "I can't undo it. We were drowning in bills. Ethan lost a client. I thought that I was your solution," I said gently. "Not your example." Her shoulders shook. Ethan's voice was unsteady. "I pushed her. I said you'd never notice. I was arrogant. Yes, I said. But arrogance is fear when wearing a tie. He swallowed. I'll repay the fees. I'll take the classes. I'll make it right. Ethan, I said quietly, you don't fix this with signatures. You fix it with Sundays. He nodded, eyes damp. Then Sunday it is. I opened the ledger and drew a small perfect circle on the final page. Do you know what this means? I asked. They shook their heads. It means completion, I said. The lesson is written. What remains is whether you live it, Mark's voice cracked. I should have seen it coming. I didn't want to believe my daughter could do this. I met his eyes. You gave her freedom, Mark, but forgot to give her boundaries. He nodded. You're right. She learned numbers from me, I said. She learned permission from you. Both matter. But this one, I tapped the ledger, this one she won't forget. Hannah wiped her face. I don't deserve this chance. No one does, I said. That's why it's called forgiveness. I reached for a small velvet pouch I'd set aside and slid it across the table. Inside was a single wheat penny, the one she'd loved as a child. Keep it, I said. Not as payment, as principle. The first honest coin buys back trust. 1 cent at a time. Her breath hitched as she closed her fingers around it. We sat together for a long while. The fire whispered. The clock kept its patient audit. For the first time in months, the silence didn't accuse. It healed. At last, Hannah lifted the teapot. Can I pour for you, Grandpa? Please, I said. Steam rose in quiet curls like grace taking form. Mark smiled faintly. Mom would have loved this. She would, I said. She believed every home could survive bad math, if the people inside learned to balance. Ethan glanced at the book. What happens to the ledger now? I ran my fingers over the worn cover and smiled. It becomes history. I picked up my pen and wrote, reading aloud as the ink set, final entry. When greed meets grace, grace must win. Not because it's weak, but because it's final. Beneath it, I wrote one word, forgiven. Beside it, I drew another circle, unbroken, eternal. Before you go, I said, turning to Mark, I'll call Grayson and ask him to hold the newsletter piece. The lesson stands. The names need not. Mark nodded, relief loosening his shoulders. I dialed and spoke simply. Publish the principle, not the moment. Grayson agreed. Peace settled in the room, not triumph, but truth. Outside, snow pressed gently against the window, and distant carolers' voices rose faintly through the cold. Silent night. Holy night. For the first time that season, the words didn't ache, they fit. We set the first Sunday. Soup and bread here, no money talk, no ledgers, just lives. Hannah repeated it aloud like a promise she meant to keep. Ethan added, I'll bring dessert. Bring humility, I said. A dessert can follow. If you believe love, respect, and dignity are stronger than greed, pride, and betrayal, share this story. If it touched you, or made you think about family, choices, or second chances, please like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments. I read every comment. Thank you for listening. That night, after they left, I stayed at the table. The tea was cold, but peace had its own warmth. I opened the window and let the winter air drift in. Snowflakes landed on the ledger and melted, as if the world were signing its approval. I turned to Margaret's photo. You see, the numbers balance again. Her smile was still patient, still knowing, for the first time in years. I didn't miss her with pain. I missed her with gratitude. I placed the ledger of memory into the brass lockbox she had given me, turned the key and let the click echo through the quiet like closure itself. They thought they could rewrite my ending, I whispered, but I still own the pen. Outside, Spokane shimmered under a soft Christmas snowfall, every flake falling like forgiveness. Inside, my table, my ledger, rested clean. And when the clock struck midnight on December 24th, I smiled, not as a man who won, but as one who finally balanced the books and closed them for good.